city, so I bought something new, cause that felt fitting. Yeah, put the pavement up.
Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Wanted to share with you an experience that my wife and I had. So for 2 weeks we went camping. Now disclaimer, we didn't actually camp for those whole 2 weeks, but when we were camping we were in a tent. And along the way we stopped at some family's house and stayed there for a few days. So this experience was a lot of fun. It was good for us just to get away and just have some time away from everything. But I learned a lot about myself and minimalism through this. So I'll share with you our journey. So I'll show you a map here that we went from Fort Lauderdale, where we live, up to Brunswick, Georgia, and then we stayed there for a night and then went up to North Carolina to my wife's grandmother's mountain house, which was beautiful. You can see the views here. And then from there, we spent a few days there and then went up to my parents in Ohio. We spent a few days there and we came back down and camped in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which was also beautiful. And then we stopped in Adel, Georgia, which is just kind of in the middle of Georgia above Valdosta. And then we came back home. So I want to share with you my experience of this and what I kind of learned about minimalism. So our first night, we stopped in, like I said, Brunswick, Georgia. We set up our tent at like 8 o'clock at night. It was getting dark. It was really hot. There were a lot of bugs. So that was not the most pleasant experience. But once we got settled in, it was hot in there. So we had a fan in our tent that we had blowing on us, which helped. So from there, we got up the next morning, went to the mountain house, and we spent some time there. And the nice thing there was we don't really have service up there. You might put your phone down and get service here and there. If you walk away from the house a little bit, you'll get some service. But in the immediate house, you don't get much service. So it's nice being disconnected from all of that while we were there. We spent some time playing games, building puzzles, and just talking about life. It was really nice just to get away. And as you can see here, it was also just nice sitting on the patio, reading a book, looking out at the beautiful mountains, and occasionally have a hummingbird zing past you. So from there, we went up to my parents in Ohio, where we did have more of those creature comforts, Wi-Fi, air conditioning, and in the mountain house, we didn't have either of those because in the mountains, it was really only mid-60s at night, upper 70s during the day, so you didn't really need air conditioning. But what I found at my parents' was I did enjoy the air conditioning, but I didn't really need the Wi-Fi. I barely looked at my phone. I think I maybe opened my computer once. So it was interesting that even though I had those things available to me, after not having them, I kind of felt freedom from them and not needing to be drawn into opening my computer and checking Facebook and checking my investments and all that sort of stuff. And from there, after we stayed at my parents', we went down to Gatlinburg, Georgia, stayed in this beautiful campground called Greenbrier. If you ever get a chance to stay there, do it. They have really cool teepees and RVs and stuff that you can rent and stay in there, and everything pretty much is on the water of the river. So it was awesome sleeping there, being able to hear the sound of the river, and people were really nice there too. So, and then our last night we stopped in Adel, Georgia, which is just above Valdosta. Nice little state campground. Super hot though when we got there. It was about 95, felt like 104. So we actually sat in the car for about an hour and a half, ate our dinner, read a book in the air conditioning of the car. So then we returned home. But what did I learn about myself and minimalism through this? Well, to start off, I learned that I packed a lot more than we needed. I packed a couple lawn games that we didn't use, and I actually ended up using one of them. It was in a box that I ended up using as a platform for the fan to sit on, so it was up near our heads. And then I packed a guitar, which I never used. I could have pulled it out here and there, and still would have been enjoyable. But for this short a trip, I really didn't need it. If we were doing a longer trip, a couple months, I would probably want it just to string at the fire and just have some hangout time. And probably the same for the games, just to have some stuff to do. But I learned that I didn't really need those things. I packed clothes for basically 6 days. So I packed like 5 or 6 t-shirts, like 2 or 3 pairs of shorts. I packed like 3 or 4 pairs of shoes. What I found was I used most of my clothes over the course of a week, and then we did a laundry. But I didn't really need the shoes that I thought I did. I brought a pair of tennis shoes, a nice pair of Toms, some flip-flops, and some sandals. But I only used basically my tennis shoes the whole time, and my flip-flops occasionally. So what I learned about those 2 weeks is I don't really need all those other things. It's nice to have them, obviously, if you're doing longer trips as well. But I learned that I don't really need most of those things, and that I can get away with a lot less clothes than I thought I could. And honestly, I didn't have a hard time picking clothes. I didn't feel like I was being pressured to pick clothes just because I had only a few pair of shirts. I really didn't miss the other clothes I had even. And I have probably 20-some t-shirts, and I only had 4 or 5 of them with me, and I felt okay with that. So this process has really just shown me that we can live with a lot less than we think we need, especially for someone who's already minimalist. It was fun to see I can live with 7, 8 pairs of t-shirts and a couple pairs of shoes and just a couple pairs of shorts. I probably should have brought some pants. It did get a little chilly at times. So a couple pairs of jeans. But I mean, really, other than that, I'm fine. So I hope you guys have learned from this and just see that there's a lot more to life than just acquiring things. Adventure is so much more fun than those things, and it lasts a lot longer in your heart and your head, especially if you're sharing it with someone. So, hope you guys learned a lot from this, and hope you enjoy.